Hello friends, and welcome to my first video here on YouTube land. My name's Jordan, this is Alive and Kicking, where we talk about all things life, especially having to do with overcoming adversity, inspirational stories, anything having to do with entrepreneurism, business, and just living your dream life in general. I want to tell you a little bit about my journey and my unorthodox way that I got to the point where I'm at now, and some of the things, the hacks and tricks and lessons that I learned along the way that I think you can use in your life as well. Because if they can help me, they can help anybody. And if I can do it, anyone can do it, because the things I'm going to talk about here are definitely out of the box type things that don't take any prior knowledge or training or anything like that. These are just things that are built into the architecture and fabric of our universe and our reality that not everyone taps into because they're a little funky, they're a little outside the box, but hey, they work, and that's the important thing. So let me take you back about 4 years. I've been sober now 4 years, haven't had a drippy drop or anything in that amount of time. But before that, it was a different story. And I went through a very dark time. I actually was on my deathbed. And when I was in the hospital, I was told pretty bluntly that I might not walk out of there. And that's not what you want to hear. So I had to do some deep soul searching. And when I was talking to the doctor, and I was in this hospital here in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida, where, I'm kind of in this small little island beach town, and people adopt this island lifestyle, and they, it's 5 o'clock anywhere kind of a mentality. And evidently so many people have such a bad alcohol problem around here that the ER at the hospital has a semi-rehab ward. They deal with so many people coming in there with alcohol withdrawal and the issues that I had. I had severe pancreatitis, organ failure, all sorts of things. It was very, very bad, very bleak. And they were telling me, hey, we're going to patch you up, but we know you're just going to be right back in here because that's just what happens. And that really hit me. I was like, hey, I don't want to be a statistic. I don't want to be like these other people. It was very humbling for me to be in there because I thought of myself as a very strong person. And here I am literally strapped to a hospital bed because they were worried about violent withdrawals and all this kind of crazy stuff. And, at that point I had to dig inside and I had to be like, okay, I can either die here or I can just go in this merry-go-round, get out, get back in, or I can just stop and just restructure my entire life. And that's what I did. And whenever I left the next day, mind you, the day before they told me I might not even ever leave the hospital. And by the next day, I'd already convinced everyone I was good to go. They had to wheelchair me out, so I wasn't really good to go, but I'm pretty persuasive. So anyways, I left, and when I got home, I had just a humongous, struggle and just climb ahead of me. I had to heal my body from head to toe. I mean, so much damage was done, and I had to really, really figure out how I was going to do this. Not only did I have to stay sober, and I knew in my mind, I was like, okay, I can't drink ever again. I had to put down the steel curtain. I had to change every single part of my life. And that's what I want to talk to you about tonight, is that this isn't for everybody. Sometimes, I'm not saying no one should drink or anything like that. This is not a judgment thing. But you know who you are if you have a problem. And if you've tried different programs, and if you've gone to rehab, and if you've tried different things and they just haven't worked. Here's something that worked for me. So what I did is I compartmentalized the things in my life and in my mind. And what I had to do is I had to put alcohol in a compartment of my mind that I put the worst things. So think about it like a supermax prison where the worst of the worst go. So I was thinking about, okay, well, I wouldn't just go and smoke a cigarette and have a Slurpee and do some meth, right? I wouldn't do those things. That's not how I roll. Even though that sounds like a great time, if that's your jam. But so for me, I was like, I wouldn't do those things. So I had to put alcohol in that category. I think what happens in our society is too many people kind of just give a quick label to alcohol and they say, oh, it's not that bad. When actually, if you think about it, it's pretty fucking bad. It's a pretty extreme thing that we subject ourselves to, and it causes a ton of damage to the American family, to our culture, and to humans, and it's responsible for most accidents and so many violent crimes. I mean, it's so bad, and now they're finding out, cancer and all these things. So anyways, this is not a soapbox about alcohol, but the point is, we have sort of in our mind, collectively, downgraded the badness, I don't know what you want to say, the severity of alcohol, and we have kind of labeled it as it's not that bad. And granted, if you can go have just one beer every now and then, it's not that bad. But who does that? Come on. I look around, I see so many people, and whenever I came out publicly afterwards, after I was very public with my whole journey, and so many people came to me and felt like they could confide in me and sent me private messages and stuff and were like, hey, I just want you to know I'm going through the same thing, or I went through this, or I'm dealing with similar struggles. And the spectrum of people that reached out to me blew my mind, because they weren't your typical stereotypical alcoholic or drunk. I mean, so many people were prominent, very successful people that were struggling hard, and they were pouring their hearts out to me, and it made me feel terrible, and it made me realize, it exposed how prevalent this problem is. And I promise this whole video is not on this, but this is an important part, because this is what was this humongous addiction for me. It was this humongous problem for me, and it damn near killed me, okay? And I'm someone who, I eat right, exercise, that kind of stuff, and I was taking all these precautions in my life to be as safe and healthy as possible, and I was doing this one thing that was literally killing me, and it almost killed me. I mean, I was this freaking close. And then I found out all these other people were too, and we've actually lost some people to alcoholism, my close friends in this community lately. So it is something that can kill you, and it's crazy. So for me, I had to compartmentalize it. I had to put it in this part of my brain where I put the worst things. And then when I did that, amazing things happened, because I was craving it like crazy. That's what you do, especially when you're an alcoholic. And I found out, and then when I did this, whenever I kind of reshuffled and reorganized my thoughts around it, instead of just thinking about it as a social thing, and now I was thinking about it as, for example, I don't eat sugar. I have naturally high blood sugar, so I don't eat sugar. So I stay away from sugary things. So I started thinking about it the same way I would think about eating like a candy bar, right? And having a Slurpee or something. I would never do that, So when I did that, it became so much easier for me to not drink, because I was like, well, of course I'm not going to drink. Just the same reason I'm not going to go have, a honey bun or, some donuts, So whatever the thing is in your head that you just don't do, like say you used to smoke cigarettes and now you don't smoke. Well, if you're trying to quit something else, say you're trying to quit drinking, put it in that same category. Think about it in the exact same way. And when you do that, mentally, your mind will automatically put it over there in that compartment and say, well, of course we're not going to do that, because that's over here, that's in the bad compartment, so hopefully that makes sense. So I compartmentalized my mind, and I labeled alcohol into the baddest of the bad. And when I did that, it was a lot easier. I'm not going to say it was simple. Obviously, I struggled. I had a very long road ahead of me, and I found all sorts of other hacks and everything that I could do to substitute alcoholic drinks. I used to drink, like bourbon and whiskey straight, and I like the burn, so I started drinking like apple cider vinegar and water, which is healthy, and I started drinking like California poppy and water, which is an organic herbal supplement, but it has a burn, and it also has like a sedative type of a relaxing feel. So I found different ways to do kind of like a hardcore mocktail. So I found other hacks for me, but the mindset shift was a big deal. So after I was recovering and I was healing my body back, I had severe pancreatitis. I mean, so bad. I mean, I won't get into the graphics, but it was terrible. I would not wish this pain on anybody. And on top of that, liver and heart and kidney, all sorts of other issues, and to the point where I went to the doctor and they did all these tests on me, and the doctor sat me down. You could just see the worry. It's like whenever you're on a plane and, the stewardess looks worried, you're like, oh shit, if the stewardess is worried, then we got problems. So when the doctor came in and she had all my stuff, she was like, oh, fuck, man. And I was like, kind of lay it on me, doc. So she was basically going down everything and telling me all the things that were wrong with me. And then she was like, well, we'll get to page 2 and 3 on your next visit. We got to fix all these things first. And I was like, that was only one page? Holy shit. We were in there for a long time. So anyways, I had a lot of things to handle. So as I was going down my list, and I was just kind of knocking them out, I ended up losing a bunch of weight, and my blood pressure at one point was 200/100, which I didn't even know it could get that high. And that was very humbling to me, to the point where they told me, and the doctor, they laid me down and pumped me full of some sort of things that quickly lower your blood pressure. And they were like, hey, if you sneeze, you're gonna have a stroke and die. And that stuck with me, because I was like, well shit, I have allergies, I can't just not sneeze. So I remember leaving the doc, and I was terrified of sneezing, and I was like, I gotta fix this. This is crazy. I can't live like this. So I started Googling, okay, what can I do? Because they gave me all these medicines, and I've always been against pharmaceuticals. And I was like, there has to be a way for me to fix this naturally. So I went to Google and I just started searching, okay, how can I lower my blood pressure? And I found meditation. Okay, so transcendental meditation is actually, one of the official things that the American Heart Association will, I don't know if you call it prescribe or recommend. So I looked into transcendental meditation, and I tried it. I gave it everything I had, but I was very high-strung and hyperactive at this time. I mean, I still am, but I have it under control now. At this time, I was like freaking out. I was on antidepressants and Xanax and everything for general anxiety disorder and all sorts of shit. And I was like, I got to get off all these things. So at the end, you'll realize that I did get off all these things. I don't take a single thing now. Everything's cool. But it wasn't like that back then. This is 4 years ago now. So I was like, okay, I think meditation is the key. Something was talking to me and speaking to me that this could be the thing that I need, because it was completely holistic. I could do it anytime. I'm in control of it. I don't need to take anything. That's what I was looking for. But I knew the transcendental meditation route wasn't. It's basically repeating mantras, and there's nothing wrong with it. I do it now, actually, that I'm more controlled. But it's not my favorite. So I was like, okay, I started searching more. I was like, okay, what do crazy people do for meditation, right? Like if you're high strung and you're just crazy and freaking out, how do you meditate? I came across this thing called Hemi-Sync by this amazing man, Robert Monroe, in the Monroe Institute. And he created this binaural beat. This is way back in the 60s. And that was revolutionary. I mean, he was a sound engineer, and he was the guy that they used to do these like tapes he would play while you're asleep at night to like quit smoking and that kind of stuff. He was the one that invented all that technology. So he was amazing, and he knew how the brain worked. He knew about psychology, and he knew how sound waves could affect your brain, especially when you're asleep. So he started studying more and realized that when he was in the labs and he was doing all his work, and he started having these out-of-body experiences, and it was crazy. And it was like involuntary. Like he would just leave his body, and he was like, what is going on? He thought he was having he thought he had a brain tumor, or he thought he was going crazy. He went to all these doctors and specialists. Everyone checked him out, said, no, dude, you're fine. They didn't know what was wrong with him. And then he began to control it, and he could actually leave his body on command anytime he wanted and go anywhere in the universe. And he became the most incredible consciousness and out-of-body explorer we've ever had, to the point where the CIA was tapping into him to do all sorts of crazy stuff for him. This is what led to all the remote viewing programs and the CIA gateway documents, the famous documents that were classified and became unclassified. And it's mind-blowing stuff. This all comes from his teachings about how to go to different states of consciousness. That's where this will all make sense. But so I was like, okay, this way of meditating that he did was sound induced. So it wasn't all on you to get yourself into a meditative state. It would put a tone in one ear and a tone in the other at different hertz, and your brain would sort of split the difference. So say one was at 100 hertz and one was at 108 hertz. It would leave this 8 hertz, tone in your head. And he figured out the different brainwave states like alpha and theta and those, and figured out the hertz of them, and figured out what tones to put in each ear so that your brain will naturally kind of synchronize and harmonize and get you in that state immediately. So you could immediately, and I'm talking quick, get into like an alpha or a theta brainwave state, and it like basically facilitated, and it was like an express lane to a deep state of meditation. And I instantly fell in love with it. So I started doing this meditation, went through the whole Monroe Institute program and everything, and I immersed myself in it. And not just that, into him as a person, into all of the secret stuff, I found so much stuff from the Monroe Institute back in the 70s and 80s, and all of their workbooks and all of their stuff, and secret tapes and all this stuff. And I just became the biggest fan, because not only was it completely controlling my blood pressure to the point where I had full control over my body, but I was able to leave my body. I was able to see things in a totally different way. So at this point, I was, let's say, almost 6 months to a year removed from the hospital and almost dying. And I was healing, and I was doing all sorts of things. But so I started to reflect back on what had happened that day, because it all happened really fast. When I was in bed for days, didn't eat, didn't drink, didn't do anything for days, basically dying. And then when I finally went to the emergency room, or got dragged to the emergency room and walked out the next day, it was straight to healing mode. And that little gap in there, I had missing time. I was whacked out. You know what I mean? So as I was going through this recovery process and I was going through the meditation, it made me start reliving some of that stuff. And I was getting in these deeper, higher levels of consciousness and seeing things in different perspectives. And I relived and realized that I had a pretty, severe or whatever, extreme near-death experience at that time. Whenever I was driving to the hospital, or actually my wife was driving me, my consciousness, and I describe it in my book that I wrote, was sort of flapping behind me like a cape in the wind. And I was experiencing it from a third person out-of-body point of view, and it was really wild. And that was my first sort of, I don't know, like peek into you're more than your physical body, which is a famous saying of Robert Monroe. And whenever I started getting into the meditation and I started really expanding my consciousness, so I guess the way I could say it is the near-death experience unlocked the door to, behind the scenes of reality, and the meditative experience, the deeper I got in that, kicked the door wide open. So I went from someone who was a very grounded materialist. I was into physics. I was very analytical and skeptical of anything. I thought anything woo or spiritual was bullshit because I had never given it any thought. I just skipped over it. And I was very immersed into physics and science and this material world. And I never really contemplated, incarnations and an afterlife and the spiritual realm. And now I'm thrust right into the middle of all that stuff, right? So there's no denying it. And then just widened my aperture and just made me look at the world and reality in such a different way. So an amazing thing happened next. I started really immersing myself in all the Monroe tapes and programs and all of the training. And he teaches you so many things. It's not just out-of-body traveling and not just astral projection, but it is learning how you can manipulate, and you can, I don't want to say manipulate because that kind of seems like you're hacking or doing something, you're not supposed to do, but really learn you learn that reality is malleable, that everything can be affected by your thought and by your intention, and that we are in this holographic projection of sorts. If you think about reality in that way, that is a holographic projection, and that you can 3D print with your mind everything, your entire reality. You get to 3D print it with your thoughts. Everything starts as a thought first, and then it becomes a material thing. And that this is very powerful. And whenever I realized this, it changed the way I looked at everything. Because before I used to think that I was just kind of this passenger in this ride that we called life, and that, we're just kind of, buckle up, hang on, here we go. And then you realize that you are a participant, like you are an animator of this game. You're a designer, you're an engineer, you're a director, you're the star, you're all the things, and that you actually get to, play a role in it and direct it. And you can just be on autopilot. You see people all the time that are just, head down, just going to work, doing the thing. And you can get in this subconscious routine, a guy calls it dungeon programming, where you're in the system, you're in the matrix, right? You can do that, and you can live a happy life doing that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the human potential is way more than that. And that's what this experience was teaching me, that I was capable of things that I didn't know were even possible before. So here I am, and I need to heal my body now, right? I'm doing better, I've changed my diet. I went to a completely natural, at this point I was 100% vegan, which is funny because now I'm basically 100% carnivore, but I was 100% vegan. I was very, very deliberate about everything I put in my body. I was doing hardcore research into biology, how the body works, the systems. I was repairing each system one by one. But I had to lose a lot of weight. I was about 220 pounds, and that's a lot for me because I'm not a big guy. So I started doing this thing called patterning, and patterning is a lot of fun. So patterning is kind of like manifesting, I guess you could call it that, but it's more of a scientific approach. But and I'll do a longer video on this because I think it's so important, but just as a brief preview into what patterning is, you, through a series of meditative sessions, you 3D print with your imagination. In this case, let's say us, like my physical body, right? So who I wanted to be, right? So I would 3D print in my mind, and I'm just giving you the simple version. It's more in depth than this, but you 3D print the physical, body, the physical body, so the physical body, the spiritual body, the emotional body, the intellectual body, all these different aspects of you, and you do it in this way that you make it real. You make it realer than real, and then at the end of it, you explode it, and you explode out every single particle into every single furthest reach of the universe. And you do this to spread that information. You propagate that information out into the universe, into the system, so that information gets everywhere it needs to go. And what you're doing here this is what I learned, is that, so remember like the Super Mario game, old school Super Mario Brothers, like the original one, where it's like a 2D, platform scroller, and you move across the level, right? And you only see like this one square of the level, right? So you're just moving along, jumping around, doing your thing here. You only see this one part, but the level goes on and on and on, right? But that's out of your frame. So you don't see any of that until your guy moves, and then the frame moves, right? Okay, hopefully this is making sense. So that's how our reality is. So you can, with your intention, through patterning, you can 3D print an event or an object or something on that timeline, right? You can't just plop it right out in front of you, because reality has to work its magic and actually bring that to you. They actually warn you about trying to do things too audacious and too big, because it can cause butterfly effects and disruptions into your reality, into your timeline. So you don't want to just say, I want $1 billion, because if you try hard enough, you can make that happen. But what if you get that money because one of your loved ones dies or something? What if you cause reality to do something inadvertent to make that happen for you, because you used such an intention and focus, and you manifested it so powerfully that it happened, but the cause and the way that it was brought into your life is negative? See what I'm saying? So you want to do things in a natural progression, right? You want to make it more organic, but you can put something on your timeline. So you can manifest, say, that new house that you want, or new car, or new job, or new relationship, or money, or whatever it is. You can heal your body. This is what I was doing with it at this time. I didn't give a shit about money, house, any other stuff. I wanted to heal my body. So I was patterning my body, essentially, and me, who I wanted to be, mentally and emotionally, and intellectually, and just all the things. And granted, I could have aimed higher, and I could have been like, I want to be like The Rock. Now that I know how well it works, I was like, man, I should have aimed higher. I learned that from Grant Cardone. 10x everything. Everything you want to do, whatever it is, times it by 10. Because even if you don't hit that, you're still going to get pretty damn far, because you made it 10 times. Your goal is now 10 times what it would have been. So you're going to go way further than you would have gone. Anyways, so I started patterning what I wanted my body to be like, what I wanted my life to be like, what I wanted me to be like. I used to be very high strung and very nervous and everything. I wanted to be calm. I wanted to be relaxed. And I wanted to be, in control of my body, in control of my emotions, in control of everything. I wanted to be off all the medications. I wanted to be 60 pounds lighter. I wanted to be sober. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be carefree. I wanted to be all those things, right? And I manifested the shit out of it. And then it wasn't too long after that I was all those things. And these things might seem simple to someone who has these things, you know what I mean? But at the time, I've lost 65 pounds now, been sober 4 years, have changed so many things. I've healed so many parts of my body that were basically unhealable. I mean, so many parts of my body. When I went back to the doctor, they did the test, excuse me, and they did all these tests. She said it was the most dramatic reversal of all these things I've ever seen. They'd never seen triglycerides go from as high as they were to as low as mine were. I mean, we're talking about thousands of points, and we're talking about they were off the charts. Like the thing that measures that says from this range to this range, mine was past the highest range. And then when I came back, it was below the lowest range. So my cholesterol, everything that was like these terrible things, that basically the fear in my doctor's face when she's reading me all this stuff, and the sweat going down her face, and then the fear in my face and the sweat going down my face, all those problems that seemingly were insurmountable, that were like, how the fuck am I going to get past all these things? There's no way. They're all gone. They're all gone. It's wild. It's wild. No drugs, no therapy, no surgery, no anything. So thought, 100% mental. That's what's so crazy about this. So that's why I kind of wanted to take you down this memory lane of my rock bottom, stupid, period. Because out of that darkness, out of that terrible time in my life, I learned so much, not just about me, but about the universe and how things work. And it's stuff that I probably never would have learned before. I mean, it really was like a spiritual awakening for me. And I wasn't a spiritual person. To the point where after that, me and my wife opened up a freaking meditation studio, and I started leading sound baths and all this stuff. And trust me, I was not that guy, but it changed the way I thought about light and frequency and energy and sound and everything, and thought and words and everything, and I'm such a freaking woo-woo hippie now, but I'm not, because it's grounded in reality, in the sense that I have done these things and I've seen them work. And also, the Robert Monroe and the Monroe Institute is very science-based, and a lot of this stuff is completely proven through repeated experiments. So this isn't just woo. And that was important for me, because I'm very analytical and skeptical, and I needed something that I could see results, I could prove it, and I could actually see their results and their data. So anyways, I say all that because I was someone who was lost. I was sick. I was dying. I was severely overweight. I had blood pressure off the charts, triglycerides off the charts. Every measurable was terrible. There was not anything, there was no silver lining, and it seemed so bleak, and it seemed, like I was just like, what am I gonna do? Like, what am I gonna do? And now I know, like, I guess the way I could wrap this up and say is that don't ever feel kind of hopeless. And if you're taking a medicine that's not working, or if you're trying this diet and it's not working or anything like that, because like reality is so much more, let's say, customizable than I ever would have dreamed. So whatever your problem is right now, whatever it is, if it's money, if it's relationship, if it's health, it is fixable. And it is fixable through your mind. You don't need to take anything. You don't need to go see anyone. You don't need to, you are completely in control of your reality. The thoughts that you're thinking are shaping your reality. Your past is shaping your future. So I had to go through a lot of shadow work. I had to go through a lot of, releasing. I did some hypnotherapy. I did some different, things like that. Releasing childhood trauma, releasing weird stuff that I didn't even know was still, we carry so much baggage, we suppress so much stuff down in us, and we don't realize how much of this shit we're carrying around for all of our lives. I started really researching gratitude. My wife is amazing with gratitude, and she's the kind of person, we take daily beach walks, sometimes twice a day, most of the time twice a day, and she, it used to annoy me. In a loving way, but she would stop constantly and pick up little seashells, and she would like look for heart-shaped things in nature and stuff like that. And I was like, come on, man, we gotta go, But like then, after all this, I started looking for synchronicities. I started looking, I started practicing like arigato money, where you close your eyes at any transaction, whether it's a $2 cup of coffee or a $10,000 purchase. You close your eyes, and at the transaction point, you thank yourself for being able to purchase this product. You thank the person for selling you the product. You thank everyone that was involved in the creation of the product. You thank the universe for giving you this opportunity to you see what I'm saying? So you're giving like thanks every single time you make a transaction with money, under the understanding that money is currency and money is a flow of energy. So when you do this, you start to get money more and more abundance. And I've proven that in my life, because not just doing that, but I do other things, spiritual type things to increase my abundance. And I went from literally cashing in change to buy ramen noodles to feed my kids, which was a terrible low point in my life. That was not that long ago, to now I have 2 6-figure businesses, running from home with my wife from our phones and laptops, completely independent. Like our main business will do $250,000 this year, and we built all that in the last year, and have another passive income business that does right around $100,000 in profits a year. And none of this is saying to brag or anything. It's I was literally dirt poor just a few years ago, and most of this is from these mental techniques that I've been using, just changing my thought patterns, and I know you can say, okay, The Secret teaches people about the power of positive thinking and that kind of stuff, and it does, and that stuff's great. But what I learned is a very important part is the action part. You can't just think positively. If that was the case, everyone would be a millionaire, because everyone has those thoughts. You have to take concrete action, and you have to put together these plans that are based around these fundamental framework of how reality works. And when you do that, you can manifest anything you want, for the most part. Remember, do it in an organic way, or you'll disrupt things. But you can manifest basically anything you want. You can heal your body, most importantly, and you can create the life of your dreams. And that's what I've really been after these last few years, is not just, getting healthy and making money and stuff, but actually crafting my dream life, like envisioning the feeling. Like I always tell people, don't ever try to manifest money, because money's not always good, okay? Like they say the curse of the lottery. There's no curse of the lottery. What the curse is if you take a regular ass person and you give them $1 billion, they're gonna do dumb shit with it, right? So I always manifest the feeling. Like for example, right now I live in this great house right across the street from the beach, right? It's a condo, but this 4-bedroom, 2-story condo with my wife and my daughter, and we live right across the street from the beach. And our dream town, the place we've always wanted to live, it's like an $800,000 condo. I can't afford that, or at the time especially, I couldn't afford it. But we were manifesting the shit out of it. We put so much effort into manifesting our dream house and our dream town at the beach. So much energy went into it, so much intention and focus. But it wasn't about the money. I wasn't saying I need $1 million to go buy a house. We were just manifesting the situation, the feeling that we were going to get when it all came to fruition. And by manifesting that feeling, you're sending a message to the universe that, hey, I assume that this is going to happen, using the law of assumption. You assume this is going to happen, and it doesn't matter how it happens. I didn't need the money in my bank because I didn't need to go buy the house. I just needed it to come into my life. I needed it to, like I said, the old video game where I'm here, this is the frame, and I'm jumping around here, and I 3D printed the house over here. You know what I mean? And I'm here. I can't see it yet, but I'm oh, there it is. Okay, sweet. That's the way it works. But you have to stick with it because it's there. You already 3D printed on your timeline. You just can't see it yet because it's not in frame. So you just have to stay true and keep consistent in your manifesting, and don't change it up, because if you keep changing it up, then it's going to get all scrambled. But anyways, and just like realize that you're manifesting the feeling, the feeling you're going to have when you have the thing, whenever you're healthy, when you have that new relationship, that new job, that new house, whatever it is. Manifest the feeling. Don't worry about the money. Too many people get caught up in the money, and then you do get the money, and then guess what? Then you don't even go get that thing. You just blow it on a bunch of dumb shit. That's what we do with money, and until you're disciplined. Once you're disciplined with money, cool, manifest all the money you want. But anyways, so that was a little walk down the last few years in Jordan world. But the whole point of this introductory video is that I want people to understand that I came from, a background of no money. I came from a background of struggles with health and struggles with a lot of things as far as emotional things and mental things, spiritual things, stuff like that. And now I'm at a place where I feel so good and so grounded and so awake and open to all these things. And I think that kind of transition, that kind of transformation that I had is possible for anyone. You don't have to have a near-death experience. Like I said, the near-death experience just sort of unlocked the door. Then everything I did with the Monroe Institute kicked the doors wide open, and anybody can do that part, okay? And, I really think that it is anybody can do it. So I'm not here to preach or teach or anything like that, but I wish somebody would have been showed me the things, because I learned them and everything. But anyways, I think that platforms like YouTube are great because people like me can just kind of spit all this out there, and 99% of people will be like, that guy's fucking nuts. But 1% of the people will be like, you know what? I get it. That resonates with me, and I'm going to use those things. And if I can help that 1%, that is exactly why I'm doing this. So anyways, that is my story, or at least the story of that part of my life. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you think any of the things I said were relevant, if you're going to use them, if you have any additional input on any of these things, because I'm still learning every single day, still learning. This is just the tippy top of my journey, So I want to hear from you guys more and more about this. What do you use in your life? How did you overcome your adversity? What are you going through? Just tell me. Let's share. Let's talk. And, pay attention to this channel, because this is my first video, but it won't be my last. I'm excited to be on here, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a beautiful night. Peace.